Hey, it's Friday, January 26th, and I found this pressure washer in the trash a couple days ago, and I'm going to see what it takes to get it to run. For starters, it's a haul. Got the whole thing completely. The air filter had been removed, and it was sitting on the ground next to it, so someone was thinking they were going to get it running, I guess. I've pulled the rope, and it's not frozen. I didn't really give it a good yank though. Oops. I mean, it sounds good, structural or mechanically. So I checked the oil; it's full. The hose is frozen on there. I put some PB Blaster on it a couple days ago, and it's still too hard for me to turn this by hand, and I don't want to put a plier on there and tear it up. I want the hose to stay on it while I'm trying to see if I can get the engine to run, so we can verify the pressure and flow and all that good stuff. So for starters here, I'm going to pull the spark plug out, see what it looks like. If it looks good, give it a couple of good yanks and see if we've got spark. The gasoline in the fuel tank is like full, and it smells like fresh gas. So I'm thinking someone tried to get this thing going and it wouldn't start, so they just threw it away. Because the way it looks, the gas should smell like varnish as long as it looks like this has been sitting around anyway. But I mean, at a minimum, I could put a little gas in the car down the intake and see if it'll fire. And then probably at worst, it'll just need a carburetor. For the engine, that is. We don't know about the pump. Fortunately for me, or semi-fortunate anyway, on the bus, we don't have water where we're staying. But I do have a hose bib on the back of the bus, so I can use water from my tank to connect to the pump and see if this thing will operate properly. Well, I mean, it ain't worn out, that's for sure. It's a little sooted up, but not severe. That's a good spark plug. I'm gonna put that back in. Well, maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I put a pair of pliers on the hose connection, the high pressure hose connection, and just broke the plastic hand gripper. And underneath it is a hex nut, which I then was able to just put a plier on and unscrewed it, no problem. And it's got interesting looking seal here that looks like it's seen better days, but there's that 2 O-rings. Needs a serious wire brushing at a minimum. Probably a new hose end. It really would be the right thing to do here, but we're not gonna mess with that. We got to get the engine running. I checked and we got a pretty healthy spark, nice and blue. So at this point, I need to put water on the pump because I don't want to run the pump dry. And let's see if putting water pressure on the pump will just run right through the pump, or you probably just run right through the darn pump. I'm gonna have to put the hose back on. Well, I thought I would check the float bolt before I did anything else, thinking that it'd be completely full of crud, and it's not. Actually, the nut was just barely tight, kind of just snug. So I don't know if the previous owner was messing with it. Yeah, there's no gasket on the nut, so I don't know what's going on here. And this gasket here, that's just how it looked when I took it off. So if I didn't even try turning the gas on until taking the bowl off, and it flows, and the Neyland seat seems to be working fine. Which is interesting because Everything looks clean here. Maybe they were good enough to drain the carburetor out, run it out of fuel before they shut it down. But I think there's supposed to be a gasket on the top and the bottom of this bowl, at least on the bottom side to this. Let me put this on and see if it doesn't just drip. Well, it is dripping. I'm gonna have to make a gasket for that. I got nothing here to work with. I don't know. I thought I had a roll of gasket paper left over from working on the bus, but I don't. So I'm trying to take one of these little index ID tags here and force the screw into it. It looks like it's going to work. I'm going to trim that with some scissors and give it a go, just to temporarily, if it'll seal it all, just so I can get this thing running and know that the carb's good. Then I know I can just buy gaskets for it and be done with it. So the little gasket on the bolt on the bottom worked, but gas was pouring out from where this gasket sits. I didn't think the gasoline level would be that high in the bowl. I was a little bit surprised. So I super glued this gasket back together. I don't even see where I think that's it. Yeah, right there. And I hit it with some accelerator spray. Now we got to see if it'll come off this wax paper without breaking. It should. All right, I'm gonna have to nurse that off of there. Maybe put a razor blade under it or something. Oh, there it goes. Okay, got our gasket back. So let's see if that'll seal. Okay, we're in there. Let's put the bowl on and see if we'll be lucky enough that this Mickey Mouse setup is going to seal. And maybe we can get this thing to run. I don't like leaving it sitting that on its side. We might be getting oil in the cylinder through the rings. Let's stand back up again. I'm going to tighten that bowl up and give it another leak test. It really is peculiar to me that the float level is so high. Okay, it's going to take a minute for the bowl to fill up. I mean, I was raising and lowering the float and the needle works. Okay, maybe we got it. I mean, if we can get this to not drip, I'll go ahead and hook the water to it and see if we can make it run. All right, I think we got it. Motor is in excellent shape. It runs perfectly, except it's running a little bit lean. You gotta leave the choke on for it to run. So we might have some gunk in the carb, or maybe it needs the air filter on it to richen it up just a little bit. But the pump is not pumping. I figured out what was up with this thing. you got to push this over in order to squeeze it. And I'm not getting flow out of the pump, but I don't know for sure that it's the pump, because my problem is I got here is this is my pressurized hose bib, but this thing is so short that this won't screw up on there enough to get tight. So I just attached this to my drain, which, let me shut that off right now, which doesn't have any pressure to it other than gravity feed. So maybe it needs a little bit more pressure. Like it might have a big old air bubble stuck in the pump or something. So before I start dismantling the pump, I'm gonna see if I can find a different hose that I'll be able to screw on there. All right, man. So the pump is good. Pumps perfectly. Everything was working perfectly. Needs new seals in the wand. The joint between the steel pipe over there, that's leaking. Hopefully I'll be able to unscrew that. Just got to figure out what's going on with the carburetor, which that's just busy work, really. It'll run, then it cuts out. And I got to go back to the trash pile where I found this. Hopefully, I mean, it's been a couple days, but the back side of this thing that bolts to the carburetor, I'm missing that part. So we're gonna have to buy that. I might just buy a whole carburetor rather than mess with it. Last time I bought a carburetor, it wasn't that much money, like 30 bucks or something. That'll be the way to go. And a fuel filter.